You have a higher mind. You have a lower mind. It's really the same mind. Just like this stick here, when I hold it like this, that's higher and that's lower. It's the same stick, right? Now, the higher mind is that what we call spirituality. The lower mind is that what we think of as flesh and as physical things. It's the same mind, but different ends. And you're both of these at the same time. That's called duality. Okay? Now, the whole trick is, which one do you think you are? Are you this, or are you that, or somewhere in between? Well, spiritual teachers, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, in the Course in Miracles, are trying to get people to get it. You're this, okay? And they don't flinch on that. They're already up in this realm. They're saying things like, you must be born again. You got to crucify this and resurrect to become this, all that kind of stuff. And they're supremely focused on this, all of them. Now, we are mostly supremely focused on this, and it's really hard to break free from that, isn't it? That's why teachings like that are so powerful. Here's the secret to salvation. You're doing this to yourself. No matter what thing you're talking about, you're doing it to yourself. That's the observer effect. You're interacting with this matter somehow, and you're having an experience that's ultimately trying to teach you something. You're not this, you're that. So, here's a good way to think of it. Matthew 4:19 will come into play here. If you recognize, even though we often think we're this, but we have the idea we're this, think of a puppeteer, right? Think of little kids watching a puppeteer, watching the puppet, and they think the puppet's moving, but it's clearly not moving. There's something above it that's sort of pulling the strings, right? We are puppets in the flesh. The human ego is a puppet. The puppeteer is who you really are. That's the spiritual self, actually interacting with the flesh self. That mind goes to sleep when we're born, or it just is off, if you will, and we have to somehow wake it back up again. Buddha means to wake up. So we have to somehow link these minds together. We spend most of our time in this mind when we're really this mind. Well, we're supposed to link them together, right? It's almost as if the puppet has to realize, wait a minute, I'm not doing any of this. Somebody's pulling my strings, right? Well, this is Matthew 4:19, when Jesus tells the disciples, let's be fishers of men. Okay, well, isn't that interesting? Well, where's the man on this board? There he is. And what are fishermen doing? Trying to bait you in, right? Trying to reel you in. You are the higher self, the fisherman, trying to pull the man up into this realm. That's being born again. Now the higher self is in the lower self, so to speak, and it's an integrated being, right? It's one thing again. That's the whole point of all this, is to be one. All the teachings of spirituality are all about the oneness of things as well. We're not dual. We are one. We're this. But we're going to go fishing, and we're going to try to pull this guy up into this guy. So what's going on? We all have these experiences that, I like to think of it this way, it's useful. We are spoon-feeding ourselves experiences. Again, Course in Miracles would call it the curriculum. When you're ready for it, you get the next test. And guess who's giving it to you? You! Right? This is you going, all right, how can I get that dumb puppet to figure out that it's really me? Right? And you're down here walking around like this, like a zombie, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm getting signals from somewhere. And it's really this voice from above that's going, hello, I'm up here, and I'm trying to get your attention, okay? So, yeah, you're supposed to go through pain and suffering. This is the dark night of the soul, okay? When you go through, it's also wilderness. You know, you can go through difficult experiences, but if you can listen to that still, soft voice, right? If you can calm your mind, be still and know, all of a sudden you hear that, wait a minute, there's that voice again telling me, hello, I'm up here, right? Now, Krishna in the Gita has this incredible line. He says, the greatest Lord is the highest self within the self. And then he says, use both selves to pull this off, okay? Do not degrade this self, but use this self to learn who you really are, right? Because this is what you really are. And so this thing does go through a lot of difficult circumstances. And who's doing it? This thing, okay? Yes, you are. The secret to salvation is this. You're doing this to yourself. Now that's a very, very empowering line. Doesn't mix with politics at all, okay? Not very well, at least. Very challenging to tell people, how are you doing this to yourself? Now, the experience that I've had, 17 years as a therapist, again, I just tell people what the prophets are saying. I didn't make any of this stuff up, okay? I'm just trying to explain why they said stuff like, blessed are the persecuted, in righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You're persecuted down here, but you're pursuing righteousness. You get to experience the kingdom of heaven. Way easier than the rich man who has a hard time experiencing the kingdom of heaven. Harder than a camel fitting through an eye of a needle, right? He didn't say impossible, though. Just harder. Because the person that's well off down here isn't likely to be looking for this. Okay? That's all that means. If you got it good, you're good. You're happy. You're not looking for the higher self. You're like really content with the lower self. So there's the teachings again. Great adversity ultimately begets the seeking of the higher self. Congratulations again. Now, as a therapist for 17 years, people don't come to me because their lives are awesome. They're coming because they're struggling with something, right? And they're specifically seeking something as a result. Congratulations. You know, that's always inside my head. I don't usually say it that much. But the idea is, okay, now your journey's, it's going, okay? You're looking for something. And ultimately, the only thing that's going to satisfy is recognizing that this is the highest self and that it's inside you and that you did this to yourself. People who experience that are empowered, right? Instead of always blaming other, they're saying, I don't care how difficult the circumstances. Again, that's the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles says no matter the form of attack, that means every and all circumstances, the person is doing this to themselves. Whoa, that's difficult to handle, right? Therapeutically, when I work with it one-on-one and you don't bring up all these other experiences that other people have had, there's the problem. What were Buddha's last words? Strive for your own liberation with diligence. As soon as I start bringing up, well, why did that person have to go through that? Or what about 9/11? And did they do that to themselves? And what about slavery and the Holocaust and all that? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'm not striving for my own liberation. I'm striving for theirs. But if I go, okay, why am I going through what I'm going through? And I ask you that about yourself. Why are you going through what you go through? And you own it and you empower yourself with it, you're going to find the higher self quick.